Life is a roller coaster. There's ups and there's downs. The more selfless you can be as a speaker, the more successful you will be. They're looking for a one-size-fits-all solution, and it just doesn't work. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Cabin Checks. My name is Brandon Burns, and today we're going to be covering part 2 of our special edition of Cabin Checks, which is this Q&A episode. Last time, I went way deeper than I had anticipated. We spent 25 minutes answering 5 questions, so hopefully this episode will be a little bit shorter. This is part 2, and hopefully we can knock this out, these last 5 questions, in 10 or 15 minutes here. I love doing these Q&As, so please feel free if you have any questions about mindset, about business, about entrepreneurship, about athletics, about just life, honestly, fitness, drop them in the comments below. This is what I do. I really focus on helping people optimize their mind, their body, and their business. So I try and take this crazy life that I've had and condense some of these experiences that I've had and the exposure that I've had, and really just pass that on to other people. So if you have any questions like that, I would love to help out. Drop them in the comments below, and maybe we'll feature yours on the next Q&A episode. But without further ado, here are the next 5 questions. This one came from another person who had read the advanced copy of the book, coming soon. And it says, how did Mr. Ken's approach to coaching and life influence your development as an athlete and as a person? So Mr. Ken was my first gymnastics coach ever. I started with him when I was 10 years old, and then he was my coach all the way up until I left for Michigan at 18 years old to go walk on to U of M's team. And Mr. Ken was like another father for me. I mean, I cannot overstate the impact that he has had on my life. Obviously, just from a coaching perspective, I mean, had he not coached me so well and I not been a walk-on at Michigan, I mean, I never would have met ET. I never would have had this career. I never would have became a speaker. So many things would have been different. And he was the one who lifted me up, who gave me the confidence, who trained me to be the person that I am today. And I cannot possibly give him enough credit. He was genuinely like another father for me, because you think about it, as a young athlete, you spend just as much time with your coaches, if not more, than you do with your actual parents, right? And so he genuinely was a father to me. How did he affect my life? Honestly, it was just his calmness and his stoicism. He is the most level-headed person you have ever met in your entire life. I mean, this man cannot be shaken. And I think he noticed in me very early on that I had kind of a unique personality, because I was incredibly shy, incredibly soft-spoken, incredibly nervous and anxious about everything and everybody. But at the same time, he recognized I had this fire in me where if I wasn't living up to my expectations, I would get pissed. And I didn't necessarily show it in public. I kind of did later on in life, like in my early 20s and when I was at Michigan. If I was having a bad day at the gym, you were going to know it. I would wear my emotions on my sleeve much more in the gym as I got older, but he could see it in my eyes. Like, he could feel it in my spirit before I was even comfortable enough to show it to the world, because at that point I was so scared and shy that I would hide it. But he could tell. And so he saw that complexity in my personality, and he just modeled how to deal with it. And I would imagine, I should ask him about this. I should have him on the podcast. I would imagine that he was probably similar as a young man, and he probably recognized that. We have a lot of similarities in our past that I won't get into because I don't want to put his business out there, but a lot of stressful situations, that happened before 20 that kids shouldn't have to deal with, that we both kind of went through. So I think he really resonated with me, and obviously I resonated with him a little bit. So as a matter of fact, I remember there was one time I was probably 13 years old, and you got to remember, Alabama, it's not technically in Tornado Alley, but it's like in Tornado Alley Junior. So we get a ton of storms out there. And this gym it was Madison Gymnastics Center in Madison, Alabama. And it's literally like the main road, right? The main county line road. And then there's this little side street. There's the gym right off the side street. And then when you look out the doors of the gym, it's just wheat fields and cornfields for as far as the eye can see. Like, there's nothing there. It's just rural Alabama, right? And so storms would go through there all the time. So if you're not from the South and you don't have a bunch of storms, that is exactly, if you're a tornado, that's what you want. You want just a nice, flat, plain stretch of land where you can just rip it up and you don't get interrupted by a bunch of geography like mountains and hills and stuff that disrupts the airflow. And I was terrified of storms as a kid, so I ended up learning a lot about them. Anyway, that was our environment in that gym, right? And I remember one day it was just me, my mom, and Mr. Ken in the gym. He would give us these free private lessons in between classes because he knew that we couldn't afford it, but he saw some talent. He wanted to help develop me. And it was just the three of us at the gym. We got the radio turned on, and they interrupt the radio with a weather alert. There's a tornado. It's on the ground. It's headed our way. We look out the front door, out into that field that I was telling you about, and we literally see this funnel coming down from the sky. We can see it with our own eyes. It's not that far away. It's like a couple hundred yards away. And Mr. Ken goes, well, I guess we ought to go hunker down in the bathroom for a little bit. It's the closest thing to an internal, building or shelter that we have. Brandon, can you go grab that sting mat and bring it in here? Mom, kind of come with me, and at least you can do some sit-ups in there while we wait this out. Just totally calm. And I did, and I literally did that. I grabbed the sting mat. We all three went into the bathroom because that was the closest thing to a shelter that we had. And my mom sat on a little bench that was in the bathroom. Mr. Ken, I stood up the whole time. He was just standing there, and I was in the floor on a sting mat doing sit-ups. I swear to you, that is how that went down. And he was like that about everything. I mean, you just couldn't anger the man. And I think because of how calm he was, he had this authoritative presence. I don't know if that's the right word. He had an authority with his presence. And when he spoke, people listened. It was the strangest thing because he never raised his voice. He never lost his temper. But when he spoke, you listened because he was just the wise man. And people knew. He was so in control of himself. He was so in control of others, not in a manipulative way, but he demanded people's respect. And that is what have been striving for ever since. Just that persona. I ain't there yet. I'm much more of a hothead than he is. But that's what I strive for anyway. So that's a little bit about how he influenced me. And of course, we're 7 minutes in on one question, so it looks like we're not going to fare any better on this video than we did the last one. Okay, question number 7. You faced a lot of personal challenges like your parents' health issues and your own battles with anxiety and depression. How have those experiences influenced your outlook on your life as well as your career? So first of all, in terms of my career, I think that a lot of those experiences have pushed me to want to have a career like what I have now, right? Speaking, coaching, developing people, helping people unlock their potential, helping people get through those situations that I've been through. That's very fulfilling to me because I know what it's like. I know what that pain is like. I know what that sacrifice is like. I know what it's like to feel like you have so much potential and you were called for more, but your life doesn't look like it and you just can't catch a break. I know what that's like, and I know how to help people in that situation because I've been there, right? And I'm uniquely equipped to help people in that situation because I've been there. So I think a lot of those experiences really helped prepare me for the career that I have now. From a life perspective, it has taught me that life is a roller coaster. There's ups and there's downs, and when your life flatlines, you die. If you look at a heart monitor, ups and downs are fine. When it flatlines, that's when it's all over, right? Life is exactly like that. And it has taught me to embrace those ups and downs because I know that there's another side to that coin. And that's, I think, what people, early in the journey, you don't see that. You don't see that this horrible situation that you can't possibly understand why you're going through it. There is a flip side to that coin. I'm not trying to say that God is purposefully putting you through something terrible. I'm saying that's how the cards unfolded. But if you choose to recognize it and you choose to leverage it, there is an equal and opposite blessing on the other side of it. I can guarantee you that. Even though it doesn't feel like it, even though you might not be able to see it yet, I just have seen too much to abandon that principle of truth. I know that it's a fact. I know that it's true at this point. So it's really, really helped me embrace the ups and downs of life. And I also think it's helped me be more empathetic. I tend to have a hard-edged, results-oriented mentality. I think that my own experiences in life, as various as they've been, as varied as they have been, it's helped me empathize with more people in a more genuine way. So that's a little bit on that. Every day means every day. Can you elaborate on this concept and its significance to you? Absolutely. Every day means every day was born when, after I retired from the sport of gymnastics, I started commentating at the Big Ten Network and commentating men's gymnastics. And I was in the studio one day and somebody walked by me and said, "Hey, how often do you still work out?" And I said, "Every day." And she looked at me with this confused look on her face and she said, like, "Every day? Every day?" And I said, "Every day means every day. What does every day mean to you?" And from that, a brand was born, right? It's just this philosophy that when I tell you who I am, I mean it. When I tell you what I do and what I'm about, I mean that. And I mean what I say. Like, I told you I work out every day. I freaking work out every day. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they play with their identity and they take it so casually. And they're like, "Yeah, I work every day." And I'm not saying that you should work every day. I'm just saying, as an example, like, "Yeah, I work every day." "Well, do you work weekends?" No. I mean, obviously not. It's like, "Well, then you don't work every day." So it's just that whole concept of taking who you are and what you do seriously. The flip side of that is your identity expired at midnight last night. I always use the example of if you were the literal Pope yesterday and you rob a bank today, you're still going to jail. Meaning what? Every day means every day. You have to reaffirm your identity today. You cannot rest on your laurels from yesterday. If you hit the hardest freaking workout that you have ever had in your life yesterday, if you put all of yourself into your business yesterday, if you just poured yourself into your relationship with your significant other yesterday, and today you cussed out your significant other, you didn't control your own emotions, you didn't prioritize them in the way that they feel, you were pretty lazy when it came to your business, you let yourself slack on your prospecting, and you went to the gym and you walked on the treadmill and you turned around and walked out because you didn't really feel like it today, you can't identify with that person that you were yesterday. You can't do it. Like, you can't look at yesterday and say, "Man, I freaking killed it yesterday," and assume that same identity today, because that's not who you are today. You're a lazy piece of you-know-what today. So that's who you are. That's your new identity. Congratulations. Your identity has to be reaffirmed every single day. Every day means every day. All right, we're getting through them a little faster now. What leadership qualities do you believe are essential for success in sports and in business? I always talk about the shotgun approach to leadership and how if you take a shotgun approach, you're probably going to get shotgun results, meaning, yeah, you might hit the target, but how much collateral damage do you cause in the process? A shotgun, for those of y'all who shoot, obviously from Alabama, except I shoot, for anybody else who is into that, the shotgun is your least accurate sort of firearm, right? If you have like a long-range sniper rifle, then it doesn't spread out, doesn't disperse as much. It's hyper precise, hyper accurate, but it's pinpoint. If you have a shotgun, you can hit a whole range. Like, you can hit a whole 12-inch grouping if you really wanted to, with the right shot, with the right load, but it's not going to be as accurate. It's going to spread out, but it's not going to be as accurate. That's kind of the way that I view leadership. Most of the time, leaders are looking for a one-stop shop. They're looking for a one-size-fits-all solution, and it just doesn't work. Again, you might hit the target, but how much collateral damage do you cause in the process? How much buy-in do you lose from your people when you do that? Opposed to when you take a truly individualized approach, when you really take the time to get to know the people that you are leading, whether that's athletes that you're coaching, whether that is clients that you're coaching and working with, or whether that's employees that are under your management. How often do people really take the time to say, "Oh, wow, I've figured out what motivates you as an individual. I know what's important to you. I know why you're here. I know the deeper things about you and what's important and all these different things, what's driving you. And now I can turn those levers the way that I need to leverage what I already know drives you and motivates you, not from a manipulative standpoint, but from a synergistic standpoint to say, hey, I'm going to set up a situation here that's best for both of us, because the best leaders make their followers want to follow. The best employers make their employees want to work for them. It's just the way that it is, right? The best entrepreneurs make their clients want to pay them, right? So that's, at the end of the day, I think that more individualized leadership is so important. And then the last thing I'll say on leadership is exemplification is the best form of articulation. I've been saying that for a couple of years now. I truly, truly believe that. Talk is great, but at the end of the day, if you can't model the behavior that you're trying to get people to follow, the talk means absolutely nothing. So exemplification is the best form of articulation. Shut your mouth and show off. Like, walk it like you talk it. All right. Last but not least, what inspired you to become a motivational speaker, and how do you tailor your message to different audiences? Okay, we'll take that in two chunks. I went to a gymnastics camp from the time that I was 10 to the time that I was 21, 22, question mark? A long time. Not the time I was 10. What am I saying? The time I was 14 to 21, 22-ish, all right? I went there, and one of the coaches who worked in my gym was also somebody who worked out there. It was called Flip Fest, and he got me a scholarship because he knew that we couldn't afford it. I went there, fell in love with the place. I wrote an email at 14 years old to the owners of the camp, and I said, if there's ever anything that I can do, I would happily do whatever I can. I'll come work for free. I'll do whatever you need me to do just for another opportunity to get back here. I feel like this is changing my life. They said, well, great. We actually have a program. It's called the JC program, Junior Counselor Program. We made a joke and said that it really stood for janitor children, because that's really what we were doing. We went there and we worked at the camp. We washed the dishes. We cleaned the toilets, like the whole nine. And in exchange, we got to stay at camp for free, or some people got a reduced rate. I got it for free because they knew I was broke. And so I did that for a couple of years, eventually got promoted to the head JC. So now I was in charge of that group. Is usually 7 or 8 kids, per week that were there at the camp. And I was in charge of those folks. And they had this tradition at camp that was called cabin checks, which is where this program gets its name from. And at the end of every night, the coaches would go into the campers' cabins and just pour into them and just give them some life advice, some motivation, a way to connect with them outside of just gymnastics coaching, right? And my kids were never able to attend those because with the rest of their cabin, because we were still cleaning at the end of the night. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing this for them. So we called it JC Cabin Checks. And I would literally take YouTube videos that I found, motivational YouTube videos, rip them off, and I would go deliver that to the kids that I was responsible for. And it turned into a big thing. The kids loved it. I literally remember, it's so insane how this all worked out and came full circle. I took one of Eric Thomas's speech, right? I never knew him. I found him on YouTube. I took one of his speeches, and I did the most Walmart brand, terrible, watered down version of his speech that anybody's ever heard of. Nothing original about it. I literally just told E.T.'s story from like not even the third person, the fourth person. I was like, yeah, there's this guy on YouTube that I was listening to and he was saying blah, 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 right? I tell one of E.T.'s stories to my group. The very next day, a 16-year-old who I was responsible for came up to me, handed me a note, walked away, didn't say anything. Opened up the note. It says, hey, I really wanted to thank you for what you said the other night. I've been contemplating suicide for the last few months, and what you said really helped. In that moment, and obviously we contacted the parents and he got the help that he needed and so on and so forth. But in that moment, I realized that there was so much more to life than what most people spend their lives chasing. Like, it's not about the money or the travel or the cars or whatever. And I'm like the bougiest person that you know. I assure you, I love expensive stuff, right? Like I'm 100% the flashiest, most obnoxious person that you will ever meet. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but that's not what I'm here for. That moment for me was like, okay, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I made the world a slightly better place. Like my existence meant something. And I knew that I wanted to continue down that path for the rest of my life. I wanted my life to be meaningful. I wanted to move the needle for people, and that's what I've done the best that I can to spend my life doing ever since then. That's what made me want to be a motivational speaker. And when I started that, I didn't know that speaking was something you could get paid for. I didn't know that it was a real career or a real job. I didn't know anything about it. I was just trying to help some kids because that's who I was, I was that kid who needed that exact same message, So that's what made me start. The second part of that question was, how do you tailor your messages to different audiences? Honestly, so 2 things, right? Number one, you get the rubric. You get the rubric from the teacher, meaning whoever is hiring you to bring you in to speak to that audience, you just ask them like, hey, what do these people need? And they'll give it to you. And then you just design the presentation around that. And then the second thing is you watch the audience as you speak and you figure out what hits and what doesn't, you know? And then you really just use them. Like, it's the more selfless you can be as a speaker, the more successful you will be. Your selflessness is 100% correlated to your success. Because at the end of the day, those are your clients. Like, those are the people who are going to say, they hold the power of judgment of whether you succeeded or failed in your presentation, right? You don't get to decide. Some sort of professional speaking critic doesn't get to decide. It's the audience. Did you make an impact on their lives that really moved the needle, or did you not? End all be all. That is it. That is the only metric that counts for anything in this business. So you just got to watch your audience. You got to talk to your audience. You got to engage with your audience, figure out what they need, what they want, what they're responding to, what they're not, and make the adjustments as needed. So hope that helps. Thank you again so much for the questions. And yes, see, we shaved 4 minutes off. Last time we were 25, this time we're 20. Oh, well, I'm just long-winded. Hey, really appreciate y'all tapping in and watching this thing. If you got value from it, please, please, please share it with somebody else. That is how this channel grows. That is how we get these sort of messages into the minds, spirits, and hearts of more people. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube stuff. And if you got a question, drop it in the comments below. We'll feature it on the next Q&A video. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Cabin Checks, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.